In this first lesson, we will be discussing the concept of exposure. Exposure is the amount of light that is allowed into the camera sensor. The key to correct exposure is allowing the correct amount of light in so the darks are not too dark and the bright areas are not too bright. There are two ways your camera controls the exposure. Most consumer cameras have a feature simply called exposure or exposure lock. This allows for you to easily brighten or darken an image without having to use additional manual controls. Most professional cameras and some high-end consumer cameras have controls called shutter speed and iris or aperture that allow you to control your exposure. We will go over these controls in later lessons. If your camera only has the exposure or exposure lock, then this is the lesson for you. To start, locate your exposure controls. With most cameras, it is located in the menu. Some cameras have a dedicated dial or button for exposure. In this case, it is located in the menu. Switch your exposure mode to manual. You will notice that there is a bar that appears on your LCD screen with a minus to the left and a plus to the right. Use your control to go towards the plus side. Notice how your image becomes brighter, and when you push it towards the negative side, it becomes darker. This exposure control overrides the automatic exposure and picture function of your camera, which is very helpful in many situations. If the camera automatically makes someone's face too dark, you can use the manual exposure to brighten your subject to where it should be, and vice versa. This control is very important to master while you are shooting in various lighting situations. Now, if your camera does not provide exposure control, or it is a prosumer or professional camera, then you will probably have to use the shutter speed and iris or aperture functions to manually control your exposure. In the next two lessons, we will go over these two important functions, so stay with us.